I would love to start with the fitness piece. And somebody may have heard the introduction where we said, you are the author of 15 Minutes to Fitness. 15 Minutes to Fitness. Okay, well, that sounds a lot like Buns of Steel in 8 minutes or the 7 minute abs or whatever you want to say. Like, that sounds kind of like a gimmick or whatever. Like, surely your program is more than that. When we're talking about 15 Minutes to Fitness, can you tell us what you've discovered about how to maximize fitness in, yes, a pretty brief amount of time?
Yeah, well, just a note to tell you how far back in history I go. The gal who did Buns of Steel, Tammy Lee Webb, she sold, and she had Buns of Steel, Abs of Steel, but Tammy Lee Webb, she sold, I think, 8 million DVDs or CDs,
Wow.
at that, whatever it was at that time. So she's pretty successful. But yeah, you get these things. And when I wrote the book, I didn't title the book. It was just my stuff. And so the publishers really thought that this 15-minute thing was catchy and it was a great title, 15 Minutes to Fitness. And because it was based on the exercise was based on the actual routine that I've created, the super slow, high intensity, twice a week, 15-minute program, which I've personally done for over 50 years. My workouts take me 14 minutes, just about exactly, twice a week, and I've been doing that for 52 years, something like that. Anyway, the point is,
Unbelievable.
if you understand what you are trying to accomplish with eating and with exercise, and then slash activity, which are two separate and distinct disciplines, then you know that you're. And I'm a big signals and pathways guy. Everything that we do behaviorally and even pharmaceutically, okay, is an attempt to direct metabolic signals, chemical signals, and pathways that follow towards driving a healthy homeostasis, okay? A healthy, carefree, youthful, vigorous, long lifestyle kind of a process. And so if you understand what those processes and what those pathways are, then you can deduce how you can get there most effectively, efficiently, safely, and consistently, right? I mean, that to me is the whole plan of metabolic health. Okay, so now we take those constraints or we take those uh, uh, facets of health and chemistry and biochemistry. I would say, how do I induce those? Okay. Now, if you ever see any of my talks, you'll always see a muscle fiber chart. Okay. Because I think with that muscle fiber chart, you can probably deduce every aspect of exercise from energy used to the metabolites created to the energy dissipated to the chemistry stimulated and instigated. All of those things have to do with, in exercise, have to do with specific muscle fiber recruitment patterns. And what does that mean? How do we tax the muscles with regard to frequency, how often, duration, for how long a period of time, intensity, at what level of muscle demand, and style a little bit mechanically. How do you do these things within those constraints or within those definitions? So basically, what I try to do, because I was brought up in the conventional, lifting and the 3 sets of 10, and as a wise ass kind of graduate student, they would always say 3 sets of 10 and the last 3 repetitions of the third set are the ones that really count. So I would say, if that's the case, then what's the purpose of the first 27 reps? What the hell are we doing those for if the last three count? So it seemed kind of logical to me that the last three count and they were the hardest ones. Why wouldn't we do the last three first when we're strong and capable of taxing the muscle at a high level, as opposed to having pre-fatigued it with these 27 repetitions until we get to this point of failure? If I ask you to run a 100-yard dash as fast as you can, I'm not going to say, but first I want you to, run a mile or two, and then we'll do a 100-yard dash. No, if you're really trying to work at a high intensity, okay, and that's another thing, Casey. High intensity. The talk that I'm going to give in San Diego in 3 or 4 weeks, whatever it is all about the different pathways that the muscle system stimulates directly towards the reduction, the oxidation, okay, the mobilization of fat. Because what gets in my craw is when people say you can't outrun a bad diet. Well, that's stupid to me. I say, well, you can't outrun, you can't outthink a bench press. I mean, what it means nothing. It's like saying, sometimes the sky is blue. Well, okay, we know if you eat this horrible diet, it's very difficult to exercise enough to offset that. You can. It's very ridiculous, and it's a stupid plan. But the point is, the problem with that statement is that it tells people that exercise is not a good modality for reducing fat, reducing weight, changing body composition. That's ridiculous. I mean, it's so what I did in this talk that I'm about, this is like a preview here for you guys, is that I took 12 different mechanisms by which muscles specifically and directly talk or communicate with fat cells in order that they upregulate their oxidation and release, okay, which means burning fat, drawing fat out of storage, okay, which is, fatty acid um, upregulation, and then using the fat as fuel, which is oxidation. Those are two different things, but whatever. Okay, so I've said, and I cited in every one of those elements, those 12 elements that I present, the literature. Okay, and the literature is abundant. So the literature shows us that muscles are a powerful influencer of fat oxidation, reduction, storage, hormonal influence, things like that. In and of itself, now it combines synergistically with a diet that stimulates some of these pathways together with the synergistic combination. To me, is incredibly powerful, and I would think it is irresponsible not to use both. And that's what annoys me a little bit about just do this gut diet, just do this, when you have this, at least half of this formula hanging out there. For the most sedentary person on the planet, okay, the most limited person, you can still instigate a high intensity muscle response. For example, if I take a 400-pound guy who's diabetic and has been obese for 30 years, and you say, how can you do high intensity exercises with this person? I say, simple. It's easy because I can get to the high intensity, fast twitch glycolytic fibers easily because this guy's capacity, if I have him do a 10-degree wall seat and he can hold it for 10 seconds, he has probably instigated some high intensity motor unit recruitment because he's so limited. Anything is going to make him. I mean, and so I can give this sedentary person 3 or 4 exercises that to you and me will seem like falling off a log. To this guy, it's high intensity work. May even be that walking 100 yards may be high intensity to him. But high intensity has to do with muscle fiber recruitment patterns, not difficulty, not raising a heart rate to a certain level. It may be all of those things or each of those things, but the real definition of high intensity productive exercise is muscle fiber recruitment pattern. Which muscle fibers am I taking to a point of momentary failure?
That is wonderfully explained. Now is probably a perfect time, since we've used the word several times, to define exercise. I think this is so critical, and it's the reason why I want to stop all the people that run by me in the morning when I'm out on my morning walk. They're all running and huffing and puffing, and I don't know their goals, so I can't judge them, but I guarantee you, more often than not, if I asked them what they were training for, probably most of them would say, I want to lose weight. What they really mean is they probably want to lose fat, and they're doing what they think is accomplishing that mission, and it's not doing it. Can you explain how you define exercise?
I define exercise as a formal, planned system of muscle fiber recruitment that instigates a threshold level, which means a level at which the muscles and the system therefore has to respond at a threshold level. Okay, so this is a structured, intermittent, what we call high intensity level of stimulation. Now, there are lower levels of stimulation, but the higher level of stimulation that we go to, the higher level of muscle fiber recruitment, the literature shows across the board that the higher the level of muscle fiber recruitment, the higher level of response, whether it be in myokine signaling, whether it be in fat oxidation, whether it be uh, hypertrophy, protein synthesis, all of the things that are good for building muscle and increasing metabolic rate and power and mitochondrial stimulation. That's a whole nother topic right there. So, okay. Now, activity, on the other hand, is less structured, informal, maybe sports training, maybe recreational. Can you derive metabolic benefits from activity? Absolutely. The problem is you don't know what, if you're training for a performance, that to me is now sports training. And some of that could qualify as exercise, but it's more randomized, it's less controlled, and therefore we're not exactly sure what metabolic pathways we're instigating and what the responses might be to those.